The Patton Report is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show.
Welcome to the Patton Report. I'm your host, Chris Patton, and today we're diving into some of the biggest upcoming releases hitting this month, as well as this past week's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony, including a brief history behind the Hall of Fame itself, this year's inductees, and some of the artists that I think should be in but aren't. We got a ton of upcoming releases. It's that time of the year where seemingly all video games start getting dropped, at least some of the big AAA titles, and right off the rip we have one of the biggest of all, which is Call of Duty Black Ops. Call of Duty Black Ops is built off the legendary series itself that's been around since the early 2000s. It continues with its seventh entry of the game, rumored to take players deep into geopolitical chaos in the early 2000s, but built on a new iteration of the IW engine. This one's promising some larger scale maps, more destructible environments, and a stronger focus on psychological warfare. An attempt to return to tense espionage feel of the original Black Ops, so expect a more gripping single-player campaign. At least that's what's being promised. The last of these games I played is mostly through campaign. I'm not as big into the big multiplayer expectations of that game. It's just not something I could ever really get into. More of a space shooter, Halo, Destiny kind of guy as far as dropping into death matches or anything like that. But we are supposed to be getting a new zombies storyline, which will be fun if you're into Call of Duty Black Ops. I know this is one that people have been waiting for quite some time, and easily will probably be one of the biggest sellers of the holiday. I'm sure there'll be thousands of ways to play as like Cheeks and Chongs and Jay and Silent Bob and all the other ridiculous stuff these games do online now. It's not necessarily for me. I'm not really into that side of Call of Duty. I know that they've expanded a lot. The game is going to launch without some of the multiplayer features and then slowly push that stuff in. It's coming out on all three platforms: PS5, Xbox, PC. It'll be interesting to see how this game does, switching back to the focus of a single player campaign. And it'd be awesome as if someone would do an old school co-op campaign. Kind of miss those. Maybe we'll get that with that Halo remaster that's supposed to be coming out, a return to form, so to speak. But there's a big missing gap there for first-person shooters and co-op campaigns, with the exceptions of like your Gears of War and your Halo. You don't really get that anymore, which is unfortunate. It's something that I know a lot of me and my friends had fun doing, just sitting around eating pizza or whatever, playing through Halo campaigns or drinking beer. And later in our years, after they re-released Master System, or the Master, what was it? What the hell is the Master Collection? Master Chief Collection, for instance. Something like that I would be more interested in than just another straight Call of Duty. But it's one of those things I'll probably end up playing at some point. It's kind of unavoidable, especially with the zombies coming back, which might be the most fun if there's some multiplayer aspects to that, and that'll be something that I might actually dive into with some friends who like it. So it's interesting to me. It's not something that I'm super excited about. There are some games further down this list that I am very excited about, but yeah, it's not one that's high on my list. But I know it's one that we needed to talk about because it's one that a ton of people look forward to every year. Call of Duty in general, not just Black Ops. That takes us to NASCAR 25. This is the latest entry in the NASCAR simulation series. It's built on the Unreal Engine 5, aims to deliver the most realistic racing experience yet, so it claims. It features all official drivers, cars, and tracks from the 2025 NASCAR Cup season. Career modes apparently been revamped with team building and sponsorship management, going back to some of the things that they did in the early days of GameCube. If you liked some of those NASCAR Thunder games, that's kind of what it's supposed to be doing, giving you more like of a depth and strategy in racing. The problem with these kind of games now is I think a lot of the fans that are looking for a simulation NASCAR game have moved on to things like IR racing, where you're getting simulation at a very, very high level. Whereas this game it used to be aimed towards your normal NASCAR fan, your consumer that had like a GameCube or a PlayStation 2, and they've gotten so far away from that. Like I don't necessarily want a fully sim NASCAR game. It's not something that I would be super into playing. Just like when it comes to things like Forza, I prefer Forza Horizon. I think it's just more fun, especially if you're playing it on a console. And then this is also only being released for PC. So it's a very limited release. If you want to play this, you have to have a PC. That kind of lends me to believe it is going to be more on the straight sim level. The last few games that they have released for NASCAR have been kind of tragic. Lots of bugs straight out the rip. So we'll see how it fares. Maybe it'll be a better shot and give NASCAR fans something to look forward to. Something I wanted to put on this list, as it is the only car game I think that we're getting in the next couple of months. We are getting some racing games that are non-necessarily car related, and we'll get into some of those as I go down the list here. But two of my favorites coming to Nintendo Switch 2, Yakuza Kiwami and Yakuza Kiwami 2, both which are absolutely phenomenal games. Remake of the first two Yakuza games from Sega. It's a gritty, emotional crime epic. You take on the role of Kazuma Kiryu, a man navigating in Japan's criminal underworld while trying to protect those he cares about. And both games, they kind of blend dramatic storytelling with some crazy wild side quests and things that you can do, like things like singing karaoke or slot car racing, and very over the top fights. Very I don't want to say button mashy because there are some combos and things that you can learn, but it is very much that. And it's got the upgraded power of the Switch 2, which should make this a very good game for a lot of people that, if you're only a Switch player, you probably haven't ever gotten to play any of these. These have existed on PC and Xbox and PlayStation 5 for a while. These are remasters of that. So if you've not played these games and want to pick them up, I highly recommend them. Though I normally, when talking about the Yakuza platform, I kind of got in at Yakuza 0, and that's the starting point that I kind of tell everyone to go to because it's such a brilliant game. It was my game of the year that year. But yeah, going back to these two after the fact, after their remasters were released for Xbox specifically, it gave me more insight into kind of what the game originally was with the Yakuza series, and it's just more story, so it's definitely worth a play. Probably one of the ones I'm most excited about, having a handheld version that I can take with me and play on the go. So something definitely to look forward to. And then we have Fallout 4, the Anniversary Edition. I'm assuming that this is the 10th anniversary of the game. I could be wrong on that. It may be even longer than that, which makes me feel super, super old. But yeah, Bethesda's classic post-apocalyptic RPG. It's returning with all the DLC content bundled in, plus next-gen updates for visuals and performance. And the Anniversary Edition includes enhanced settlement tools, new Creation Club content, as well as support for ultra-wide displays. Kind of perfect for anyone who's wanting to dive back into the Fallout universe before the new Fallout 5 eventually surface, which I've heard is kind of already in the makes and on the way. So it's something, if you're a Fallout fan, I'm sure you're looking forward to this. I played through Fallout 3 and Fallout 4. I have a hard time getting into this series. I absolutely love the show, which is the weirdest thing. Most people are kind of the opposite. If they really love the game, sometimes they have problems with the show. I'm kind of the opposite way on that. I like the aesthetic of the game. I never was a huge fan of the gameplay and the feel of the Fallout games. I like the idea of the choose-your-own-adventure pieces of Fallout and kind of the wackiness and the things that you can cause to happen in the world, but it's the actual gameplay part of Fallout that I've always kind of had a problem with. It just doesn't hook me in, and they're very long games if you want them to be, and Fallout 4 is probably my favorite of the ones that I've played. I know a lot of people go to New Vegas as their favorite. I don't know. It's the tough one for me. I like some of the characters in Fallout 4 as far as your main companions and stuff a lot more than some of these other games. But yeah, so anyone looking for a new Fallout, that's on the way, or at least the Anniversary Edition's on the way leading into Fallout 5. And that's coming out on all platforms, so PC, Xbox, PlayStation 5, that'll be available to everyone. Another game I'm really looking forward to, and I'm so glad that it's actually coming out on PS5 and Xbox as well as PC, is a pizza delivery. It's an indie horror adventure that I've been kind of following that's gotten a lot of buzz, but you're basically playing as a late night pizza delivery driver who stumbles into a terrifying neighborhood. It's kind of mixing psychological horror with dark comedy. Think like Five Nights at Freddy's kind of meets Silent Hill or Resident Evil type deal. With branching storylines and multiple endings. It's something I'm really looking forward to. I love these little indie games, and I'm so glad that we're starting to see more of these on console. Not that I have anything against PC. It's just nice that I'm assuming this will probably show up on Game Pass at some point. And that's a great way to kind of get into some of these games you've heard of, but necessarily didn't want to shell out, $30-$40 to play. But it is one that I'm looking forward to. I'll probably be a day one guy on this. But yeah, so I wanted to include something indie related on this because we do have a bunch of AAA releases from Nintendo and Sega and EA as we just went through with Call of Duty and the Yakuza series and Fallout, Bethesda. So it's that time of year, so it's a lot of AAA games. So this game seemed unique, seems like something that I would really enjoy, and I hope others will check it out and support an indie developer. Speaking of which, a non-indie developer, Nintendo, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment is coming out on Switch 2. It's the next chapter in Nintendo's Hyrule Warriors saga. This one's set centuries before Breath of the Wild. It dives deeper into the ancient war between Hyrule and Calamity Ganon. Expect some big, massive battles, lots of playable champions, and surprises tied to the Zelda lore with hundreds of enemies on screen at once is what it's promising at the very least. Supposedly powered by the new Switch 2 hardware, we will see what that actually looks like and how much they can actually get on screen and how many frames that runs at on the new Switch 2 hardware. I never could get into the Hyrule Warriors series. I'm kind of lame when it comes to that. I just like my traditional Legend of Zelda. Give me the traditional Legend of Zelda. I want to follow the story of Link. I don't really care about all this prequel stuff. Much like a lot of Star Wars prequel stuff, it's going to be hard to get me sucked in or involved in. But you do have the advantage of there's not a ton out on Switch 2, so it's a new game, right? Like a lot of the stuff that they've been releasing for Switch 2 are things that we've already played, or updates to games, with the exception of like Legend ZA, which is also out on regular Switch. I don't know how that runs on the original Switch when they had such a problem with Velvet and Scarlet. But that's actually, if anyone knows, please feel free to message me and tell me if you're playing Legend ZA on an original Switch, because even on the new Switch, it doesn't always run the best, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Hyrule Warriors, how that plays out, and what the reaction is to that, because it seems like they're going to continue making these games, even though they're not as popular as any of the other big franchises that they seem to work on. I know that a lot of people. I played this when the Nintendo Wii U came out. That's the first Hyrule Warriors game I remember playing. And yeah, it's just something I couldn't really get into. But it's out there for anyone who's looking for that. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is out on Switch and Switch 2. This is the long-awaited successor to the Budokai series built for modern consoles. Sparking Zero lets players brawl in massive, fully destructible 3D arenas with an enormous roster across Dragon Ball Z, Super, and even GT. It's supposed to be very flashy, very fast, faithful to the original series, a game that a lot of people have been waiting for. I loved this series on PlayStation back in the day, so this is definitely one that I'm planning on checking out. It'll be interesting to see how they handle the online side of things for this, as far as battling online and what that will look like, and how the Switch 2 will support that with its unique camera system and chat system and all the things that come with the Switch 2 that make the Switch 2 unique. So I'm interested to see what that's like and what kind of story, or I guess fight ladder, that they put into the game to kind of build around, the Dragon Ball lore. But yeah, this is one that a lot of people have been waiting for. I think they've done a pretty good job with these Dragon Ball fighting games as of late, and have that engine dialed in. So it'll be interesting to see what this game looks like, for sure. That brings us to the Monster Hunter Stories collection for Xbox. This is Capcom's monster battling RPG series, a game that I love, especially Monster Hunter Worlds. It's bringing both Monster Hunter Stories 1 and 2 and Wings of Ruin to Xbox for the first time. These are more turn-based RPGs set in the Monster Hunter universe, focusing on more story and creature bonding rather than the traditional hunting. So I've never played any of these games. I do like Monster Hunter as a series. This is something I look forward to checking out. I'm always into a good monster battling game. So if you can give me a Digimon or a Pokemon or something like this, I'm pretty excited to see what it's going to be like to play it. I've seen a little bit of the gameplay. It looks interesting. It's definitely something I'm going to give a whirl and something I wanted to include on the list. And that takes us to the last game on my list, which is Kirby Air Riders Series 2. It's follow-up to the cult classic GameCube game, Kirby Air Ride. Series 2 modernizes the concept with some online multiplayer, track creation tools, the new copy abilities that alter how Kirby interacts with vehicles. It's supposed to be very fast and chaotic. This game is supposed to run at a very high frame rate, which I look forward to. And hopefully it's a replacement for the disappointment I have for Mario Kart on the new Switch. So looking forward to this one. This is probably a day one pickup as well. And one that I hope a lot of people are playing. And if you are playing, let me know, and then I'll send you my gamer tag, and we'll have to do some racing in Kirby Air Riders. It's one that I'm very much loved on GameCube, and I'm so happy it's getting a return. It's been way too long for a series that I think is just as good as a lot of the Mario Karts out there. And this week I kind of skipped over what I've been watching, and mostly because I've been reading. So if you haven't checked out my other podcast, Bachman's Basement, spent a lot of time reading Needful Things. It's a book that we just went over. Wonderful book. And you'll get all my thoughts and opinions if you check out that show on that. And then also we read the short story Jaunt, which is a really, really fun. If you're into more of Stephen King's science fiction stuff and have never read Jaunt, it's well worth a read or listen. It's only about an hour long if you listen to the Audible version. Highly recommend it. And the other big thing I watched was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And that kind of brings me to the next segment of this show, which is talking a little bit about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and going into some of the history. Because I was like, when did this thing start? Because it's a lot bigger event now than I ever remember it being. But yeah, so the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it was founded in 1983 by Atlantic Records co-founder Ahmet Ertegun to honor artists who shaped the sound and culture of rock music. And just to list off some of the first induction ceremony, it took place in 1986, and it honored kind of all of the gods of original rock and roll with Chuck Berry, Elvis Presley, Ray Charles, Little Richard, James Brown, Jerry Lee Lewis, Sam Cooke, Buddy Holly, Fats Domino, and the Everly Brothers as the first inductees. So it kind of started off with a banger there as far as who's in right off the rip. And then the physical museum itself, which I've been to, opened in Cleveland, Ohio, chosen, and I didn't know why it existed in Ohio. I think that's a question a lot of people have. But it was chosen for its historic connection to DJ Alan Freed, who coined the term rock and roll. So that's apparently why it was built there. I will say Cleveland as a town has a lot of great vinyl shops. It's one thing I remember about being there when for work was I ended up having to buy a second suitcase to ship home all of the vinyl that I acquired back when I used to collect vinyl and was traveling for work. So I had you got to go through Delta and you put that thing on the belt for the weight or the scale to get it weighed. I'm like, oh man, this is gonna. I'm never, as the Tiger King once said, I'm never gonna financially recover from this. But yeah, that's what I remember about my experience in Cleveland, was going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and then also going to the surrounding vinyl stores, which were aplenty with some really unique, cool stuff. If you're into that kind of thing and ever in the Cleveland area. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class of 2025, it has had a ton of artists that I really, really loved, and it was really cool seeing Outkast and the White Stripes and Soundgarden all get inducted kind of on the same night, as well as Cyndi Lauper and Salt and Pepper. Salt and Pepper, I think, had probably the best performance of the night. I really, really did enjoy that and was kind of surprised by that. Really cool. All of the introductions themselves, with the exception of, and I always slaughter her name, but Chavel Roan's induction for Cyndi Lauper, the speech itself was really, really rough as the person introducing her to the Hall of Fame. But outside of that, everyone else I thought was wonderful on this, I think. Jack White's speech, including his poem to Meg at the end, was heart-wrenching. I thought all of the performances were really great. I really enjoyed the Outkast induction speech as well. I thought that was really, really well done. It was cool to see Childish Gambino be the one to introduce them. The performances were awesome. It would have been cool to see Jack White play on something, even if it wasn't a White Stripes thing. Same thing with Andre. It would have been cool to see him play. I know he didn't want to do anything hip-hop related or rap related, but some kind of flute element on one of the Outkast songs, I would have thought would have been pretty cool. I don't know that I want to throw him under the bus like he's been getting kind of dragged online. But it's kind of understandable because Outkast without Andre is just Big Boy, which is not a problem. I love Big Boy. I think they really did a great job with Tyler, the Creator, kind of filling the role on Bombs Over Baghdad. I really enjoyed that performance. And Soundgarden was incredible. That was a lot of fun. They did have a lot of sound issues throughout the show, which must have been really, really annoying for the performers. And but I don't know. It's always a fun show each year. I think the performances this year and the artists inducted I cared more about than last year, even though Ozzy got inducted last year and there were some cool moments. The performances I think were better overall this year. So it'd be interesting to see what they do next year and who gets inducted. And it's kind of weird. There's so many people that you would think would have nominations that don't. I know not everyone is into Motley Crue, but you think they would get at least a nomination. They never have had a nomination. And that kind of takes me to a list of bands that I would like to see and artists I would like to see who, haven't been mentioned or I haven't heard them be mentioned. Bands like Iron Maiden, Warren Zevon, Alice in Chains, Motorhead, Joy Division. Those are all things that I would like to see happen at some point. All bands that I would like to see inducted. And I guess we'll see. You never know. I honestly, I didn't expect the White Stripes to go in so early, but it makes a lot of sense for what they did for music, and that's a big part of it, not just album sales. And but yeah, there's some big ones out there still, and I'd be curious to hear the listeners' thoughts. So if anyone has a list of people that they think should be inducted or want to talk about it, feel free to hit me on Facebook or Instagram or at Bonk Studios. We're always loving to talk about this stuff. So that's pretty much it for this week of the Patton Report. It's a little bit of a lighter episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. This wraps it up. Between new games and releases and one of the most dynamic Hall of Fame classes in years, there's plenty to look forward to and plenty of debate, whether it's video games or who should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm Chris Patton. Thanks for listening. And as always, keep your volume up and your mind open. And peace out.